We have a new discovery in the Athabasca, and it looks like it could be very big. We've got a project now that we've advanced to the stage where a number of other groups will look seriously at what we've been able to do over the last 3 years.
But I don't think your problem is land banking or projects. How do you set up or structure a deal which is going to benefit your shareholders today? Welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, please give us a thumbs up. It'd be much appreciated. And do leave your comments below because we would like to understand the sorts of questions you think we should be asking, how we're doing generally, and of course, what you think of the company. And if you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, for more videos like this, click the notification bell. We spoke earlier today to Peter Dasler, who's the CEO of CanAlaska. They're a uranium-focused explorer in and around the Athabasca Basin. They've also got a little nickel project, which they've JV'd out. We talked to them about their business plan. With $1.5 million, I think they've decided to hunker down and see how the uranium market plays out. We talked to them about their project generator status as well. You know, what is their business model? He explains. So take a look in the description below. You can click on the relevant timestamp and that'll pop you to that part of the video. Enjoy what Peter has to say. Hello, Peter. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm great, Matt. I've been in isolation here in Vancouver, but our community is reasonably safe, and tomorrow we're starting to open up the community. So we've been through some trying times. Everyone has, and certainly the world's going to be very different over the next years. But I think where we're placed with CanAlaska will be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think never a truer word. Well, look, why don't we, before we get stuck into your business plan and what what your hopes are for this year, why don't you give people that 1 minute overview and then we can get stuck into it.
Yes, CanAlaska has been involved in uranium exploration in the Athabasca since 2004. We have three partners at the moment, Cameco, Denison, and Northern Uranium, and we have about 500,000 acres of land in 12 projects. The most significant events over the last 2 years have been the discovery of high-grade uranium on our West McArthur property, and then recently us doing deals on our nickel projects and raising funds to go out and drill the targets that we've got at West McArthur. Brilliant,
great summary. First of all, I just want to understand your business model, and I've been reading up your verse material. You talk about yourself being a project generator, but also an explorer. Which is it?
Well, I'm a geologist, and I work with a group of other geologists and geophysicists. We've been explorers on our own rights for the last 40 years. Most of us have been in the industry that long. And we've seen lots of opportunities in Canada for new discoveries. It was in 2004 when we said, let's have a look at the uranium market. It's moving. My partner, Carl Sheeman, had been very successful in drilling the first holes at Cigar Lake and running operations for the French giant. And so we acquired some uranium projects in the basin. We were rapidly approached by other groups to share those projects, and that really became the project generation description of our company. Our focus has always been to go find a new uranium zone, a bit like McArthur River or Cigar Lake. But we had 2.5 million acres of land that was sufficient to bring in new partners from Korea. The Korean government subsidized work by Hanwha, SK, and Korean Resources Corporation. And then Mitsubishi Corporation formed MC Resources in Canada and funded exploration of our properties. So people were trying to name what we were. We're explorers, we're geologists, we're definitely explorers by nature, but became project generators because we had more projects than we could handle ourselves and we needed to finance them. All told, about $50 million went into the ground to outline targets on our uranium properties. And then when we saw the market slowing down in 2016, we had an opportunity to buy out Mitsubishi on a discovery property, West McArthur. month later, did a deal with Cameco Corporation. So we've concentrated on dealing our uranium properties. In between, we saw an opportunity for diamond exploration in the Athabasca, and we did a significant deal with De Beers of Canada. More recently, the uranium market was down a bit, and we'd seen an opportunity 4 years ago to pick up nickel properties. In April this year, we dealt off 2 of our major nickel properties to a company that's 30% controlled by Robert Friedland. It's in the Thompson Nickel Belt. So, yes, we're explorers. We want to find things. We realize we don't have enough money to do it ourselves in a $9 million company. So we go out and find partners to help us explore. But generally, in these cases, we do the exploration for them. So that's the project generator model that we run to. We see lots of opportunities, but we need that funding from outside. Otherwise, our shareholders will become too diluted. And that's not something we want to do. We've got a 57 million share company, and we've got cash, we've got projects, and we've got a market that's turning.
Okay. A lot of things covered there, but you hit the nail on the head there with one point. You're a $9 million company. You're sitting on a lot of land bank. You need to bring partners in to finance that. But the other part of that equation is you don't want to dilute shareholders, but at the same time you do want to create value. So how do you create value? Or why haven't you created value? It's $9 million today. With all of the names that you've just dropped on the table, shouldn't this company be worth a lot more?
Well, we all think the company should be worth a lot more. We had a brief foray up to $30-40 million market capitalization, which is where just a bit below what we were sitting pre-Fukushima. We've seen a tremendous malaise in the uranium market. For some time there, we didn't have a financial partner. Dundee used to be our 15% owner and supporter in the market, and they immediately sold out after Fukushima. So we were sitting with only our existing shareholders, our small retailer shareholders, until about a year ago when Sprott came in with Rick Raw with a bunch of shareholders, and that allowed us to restart our operations. We took control of the West McArthur project. We extended the discovery that Cameco had made. We were drilling 8% uranium mineralization. And we should have responded a lot more, and I'm not really sure why we couldn't get back to that 30 or 40 million market capitalization. We did do a tremendous amount of trading, but a lot of that trading was trading us down. So there were strange things happening in the market. I mentioned that to you before. I think now the market's settled down. We've got a market that's increasing for uranium. And so that $9 million, I think the market capitalization is going to disappear behind us as people start to see that nuclear power takes more uranium, and we don't have enough of it in the market at the moment. So it's early days, good time for investors to get in. The last month we've been doing some significant trading, averaging several 100,000 shares per day. And so I think there's opportunities there for shareholders to help us grow this company.
Yeah, but the company itself hasn't really sort of seen those dizzy heights of 30, 40 million bucks since mid 2016, and since then it's been sort of a little bit higher than you are now. So do you think the business model is right, or do you think it's just the fact that the market was depressed for uranium during that period and you weren't able to do much? People weren't attracted to the story. And if I look at the share price today, it seems to be more of the same. How do you kind of break that mold? How do you get people excited about what you've got?
We've got 4,000 shareholders who are holding our stock. They do call, they email, they write in. They're very patient shareholders. They like what we've done. So we've got this solid base of shareholders. What we really need to do is find more people in the resource industry. For the last 5 or 6 years, the resource industry has, the returns have paled in comparison to what you could get in marijuana and Bitcoin or whatever other latest fad there was. And I can understand why people put their money somewhere else. But there's been a significant change in the uranium market, even in the last month and a half, even in the last month. We've seen the U.S. come out very strongly saying, listen, we need to support our nuclear industry. We need to grow our nuclear industry. We need to export our nuclear technology. And here's a country that consumes, almost 40 million pounds of uranium per year, and they don't really produce any of their own. We sit next door to them. I noted in the correspondence that came out over the last month and earlier comments in January that the Canadian government was looking to work with the U.S. government. And then in the U.S. paper that came out here, I see that the U.S. is going to work with its allies. So I think there's going to be a focus on Canadian uranium just as much as anything else. And because the existing mines have shut down and anticipating or waiting to get a new higher price, I think as that higher price comes in, we'll see a lot of new investors. We may even see people who have invested in completely other industries saying, well, what about resources? Where can we put our money that's likely to grow? And I know the bricks and mortars out there with new nuclear power plants, but I also know that we only are producing about half the amount of uranium that's going to be needed for them.
Okay, so I do buy into the macro story. I really do. We've interviewed a lot of the great and the good in the uranium space, and I think it's a well told story. But let's come back to your model, where you think you're going to insert yourself, because how much cash have you got? Let me just ask that quickly.
We're sitting on $1.5 million cash. We've cut back a number of costs since our drill program. We curtailed that a bit early because of COVID. And we're sitting with a drill rig up in the field, with a camp up in the field, which we could mobilize to later in the summer, but it's now looking less and less likely. But I think we've got a project now that we've advanced to the stage where a number of other groups that are in the uranium space or want to get into the uranium space will look seriously at what we've been able to do over the last 3 years. We've drilled into very high-grade uranium right next door to the world's biggest uranium mine at West McArthur, but very, very close, 2.5 kilometers away and on the same structure as the latest discovery in the Athabasca, that's Fox Lake. We have a new discovery in the Athabasca, and it looks like it could be very big. Additionally, just last week, we announced another 100 square miles of land that we were able to acquire when the claims that were overlying that expired. The piece of ground that we'd sat on for looking at for 4 years, and when the claims expired, our team got in there very quickly, got 4 new large land positions, 1.4% uranium at surface on targets that had the first pass exploration, but targets that we're very familiar with. So that gave us a new portfolio advantage, a very shallow on-surface uranium mineralization to match with our deeper, high-grade, large-scale targets. And so I think we've got an attractive portfolio of projects for people to come in and either work with us on them or help us finance.
But I don't think your problem is land banking or projects. You've got a lot of those already. I guess people are wanting to see, how do you set up or structure a deal? Because you're working with Cameco, Denison, Northern, you've got all the people looking at you. You're able to have those conversations, but how do you construct them in a way, or how would you construct them going forward in a way which is going to benefit your shareholders today? How do you get money up front? How do you retain larger positions in these joint ventures? Because if it's more of the same, then we can expect more of the same in terms of the share performance. So what are you changing?
We're out there reaching more people today than we've reached in the last 4 or 5 years. There was a deafness to the uranium business. But prior to that, we were able to talk to Asian groups that were interested in finding or land banking uranium for future use. That was quite evident when we were working with Mitsubishi. They liked what we had in place. They saw the opportunity for more discoveries, and they joined in on this one project at West McArthur. I think there's opportunities if we go back into Asia to look for partners that They're saying, look, in 2 or 3 or 4 years, we understand the uranium market is going to change. Where can we explore for uranium? The Athabasca is a very rich area of uranium. What have you got? And I can say, well, our projects are in good standing for 2 to 15 years. We understand where the targets are. What is your ability to finance over the next little while? Because we think we can find more of these 100 million pound plus deposits. And now we can offer them a portfolio of what would you like? Do you like something on surface or something that's depth? Either side of the ground that we just staked, we already dealt 2 projects to Chinese interests. We sold 2 projects, one at Collins Bay and one up just northwest of where we are now, to Chinese companies through 2010 to 13. So I think now with new discoveries and new targets, I think we can find new partners.
Okay, but what are you going to do different in terms of constructing those deals? Because, Cameco's not doing very much at the moment. Denison's not doing very much at the moment. We have spoken to companies who are partnering with some big names, but they're not spending money. No one's, putting dollars in the ground. And obviously, if your partners aren't doing that, you're not accreting value if they're not doing anything with these contracts. So what are you looking to construct going forward, which is going to be better in terms of what it does for the company?
Well, I think it worked very well for us last time when we had a rising uranium market, and I think we have a rising uranium market now. I don't think we need to change the model at all. We're not pressured to do work on these properties. We'll be able to keep our team together, drilling through January, February. Corey, who came over from Cameco's side, is working full-time on putting together the targets on these northern properties, but also getting ready. Of course, we do expect that we'll be working for Fiordland on a nickel project, so we'll keep that team together on side projects. But at the same time, going back to that long list of names that we had, that we approached previously and said, look, you know that the price of uranium is going to change. You know what the demand numbers are. We have new projects that if you would like your own uranium mine, we will help you work in Canada. We will put our teams in the ground for you. And your funding requirements will be in the region of $2 to $5 to $10 to $20 million. Those are the types of numbers you need to put in to make discoveries at shallow or depth. And I think we can attract that over the next 6 to 12 months. If we just focus on that, we don't need a lot of funds to do that. We've got enough funds, but we've got the names that we want to contact.
You guys, everyone in the uranium space called it wrong for the last 12, 24 months. You're saying the same things now you have for the last 24 months, right? Why now? Why do you think it's now? Is COVID literally the savior for the uranium space because of the shutdowns with Cameco and Kazatomprom and Namibia? Well, I think Namibia are back up now, but is that what it took to get people's attention?
I think people's attention has been there, but they've been able to play waiting games. I think those waiting games are getting a lot hotter for people. It's a hot potato. We've seen the U.S. say, look, we're going to put $150 million into buying U.S. uranium. If that was 10% of the uranium, that's another 3 or 4 million pounds of uranium. If the U.S. says, well, we'll pay $40 a pound for that, then that's fine. It starts to establish higher prices. Once you get this thing rolling, it will move very quickly. I saw it move very quickly from $7 to $25 to $35 a pound, and I thought previously it would stick at somewhere between $35 and $60 a pound, and it shot to $140. The resource industry is really quite a small industry, and when outside interests come in and want to put money into there are very few players, and I think that people will buy up uranium out of the market just to make this situation more interesting. And I think once that uranium price has that roll, that momentum, we're all in business in the uranium market, and people will come and want to find land and they want to make new discoveries because the bricks and mortar are there. We know the demand for the US. We know the demand for Asia. We know the demand for the Middle East. This is a huge market that we just don't have enough uranium. And if we can come into the Athabasca and find new discoveries, for about $15,000, we acquired over 100 square miles of land with 1% uranium showings on surface. Major structures that look like the adjacent mines, which are 100 million pound mines. I think the world's changed to pay attention to resources, to pay attention to things that are important in terms of keeping the lights on, literally. And we're positioned there. I don't need to change the business model. It worked very well. I just need to maintain the team that we've got, and we're doing that very well, and maintain cash in the treasury, which we've been able to do very well over the last 5 or 6 years, even though we had a downturn in the industry.
Okay, so given the market that you're describing of the near future, are you going to be able to go and raise capital to continue the exploration component rather than the project generator side of things? Do you think that the money's going to be there for you? Have you been able to demonstrate that you spent money wisely, intelligently in exploration?
I think our team's done an excellent job, and I'd like to compare us to where we were, where NexGen was back about 7 years ago. The first 5 or 6, 8, 10 holes in NexGen's property indicated that there was uranium mineralization there, and then the market moved them from a $20 million company to a $1 billion company with new discoveries. We're at the same stage in terms of we're drilling into a target that's very large. We're getting 300 to 500 meter intercepts of 1 ppm uranium. We're hitting 8% uranium mineralization in the new drill holes at the unconformity with a large amount of copper. This last drill program allowed us to fence in the large offset of the unconformity, this 25 meter offset of the unconformity. We put out an image on our last press release showing that in 3 dimensions. We're very excited where we can go. We kept the drill rig sitting there and the camp sitting there, expecting that later in this year we'd be able to go back and at least drill 1 or 2 holes to finish off the season, if not a few more. And those drill holes can give us further discoveries which will draw the market to us. We know the market does follow discoveries. The problem with the going back and restarting this year is maybe money related, but I think right now it's more related to making sure that we're not infecting the communities in the north as we try to go back and work. We do have an isolated camp. It is possible, but we'll leave it for another month or so to see really what this uranium market does and see what the price does. And if we can bring in another party that's interested, then we might be able to get started later in the summer or certainly for next year.
Okay, so you compared yourself to NexGen there, but you guys have been around longer than they have. So what do you think gives you the right to compare yourself to them? Why should the market feel confident when you use that analogy and say we're like NexGen 7 years ago?
Well, I think I bought NexGen when they were about 27 cents. I saw the first drill hole that went in that showed haloing of uranium mineralization. They hadn't hit the target, but it becomes very obvious to technical people that when you start to see these halos of uranium mineralization, you know that there's a large plumbing system operating that's bringing a lot of uranium to surface. And to see their long intercepts of near miss, that put me in the game with NexGen a number of years ago. Now what we're doing is we're drilling. We've drilled lots of projects in the Athabasca, and there are lots of small projects, but we're drilling 500, 600 meter intercepts. In fact, even more than that, with uranium coming right to surface in drill holes. That only happens when you have a tier 1 type target sitting underneath you. And those tier 1 type targets, they may only be 100 meters long, 200 meters long at the most, but we know we're very close to something that looks like the McArthur River or Cigar Lake because of the high grades we're seeing, the clay alteration we're seeing, and we just only have a dozen holes into it. We think that we can hit that with the next drill programs. We aim to do that this summer, but we actually winter, but we closed down early. I compare us because of the technical similarities, and then what the market did when that next step happened, when they actually drilled into the major structure that was carrying the uranium deposit.
So why couldn't you go and raise the money to do that yourself? Why talk about bringing a partner in?
Well, you can do that. Probably it would require a large amount of dilution with a 15-cent stock at the moment. And I think our shareholders would prefer us to sit on the sidelines a little bit further and really see what happens with the uranium price. It's very, very early days. We're probably 60 days into that price move. And we've got another May, June, July to see where things are going to go. I think the next 3 months are going to be very interesting for the uranium price. Our partners sit down with us on the 27th of May here to run over the drill programs for West McArthur. And then I'm also expecting other meetings with Fiordland's partners, their technical team, to look at the nickel space. But I think just give it a little bit of time. I don't want to finance at 15 cents.
Yeah, okay. I think that's interesting. I mean, what have you ever considered just don't do any drilling, wait till the price does recover, because you're not going to hit this cycle anyway, so why not preserve your 1.5 million bucks and sit back and hunker down?
Well, I think with the changes that have gone on in the market over the last little while, yes, we should see what those changes come out with over the next month or two. When we were going into the program in December, we're saying, well, we're not quite sure what 2020 will be like, but we have a target. We'd like to go and drill. So we did finance and we did go and start drilling. But significant things changed. And I think it behooves us to sit back a little bit for a month or two. As I said, we have no pressure on us in terms of assessment work for any of these projects. We're able to compile a lot more data and show this to people, showing the style of the target. And I think another month or so's wait might be well worthwhile.
Okay, brilliant. Can we talk about nickel? Because you're a uranium guy, but the Thompson nickel belt, it's not insignificant. You came across that. You know you're not nickel guys. It's a very much sought after commodity at the moment with the whole EV thematic going on. Well, maybe not for the next few months because of COVID, but it had good grades. What did you decide to do when you saw that? I mean, what were the choices available?
Well, we were stuck with a very low uranium price and very little interest in the uranium market, and our technical group said, well, look, there are lots of other things available in Canada for us to look for. I said I'd like to really stay in, clean energy, battery metals, but I pointed out to the team that a lot of the claims in the Thompson nickel belt had been held, or the license had been held for 50 or 60 years, and they were due to expire. There must be some opportunities there. And we, for a very small amount of money, we were able to stake some ground north of the Thompson smelter complex on ground that looked really quite good. It had some old drill intercepts with 1% and 2% nickel mineralization. It took about 2 years of part-time work assembling the data and assembling and putting together the Manabridge project. But it was something that was well worthwhile because about a year ago, in August last year, I managed to corner Robert Friedland at the Sprott conference and point out to him that we had a series of nickel projects in the Thompson Belt. This is the 5th largest nickel belt in the world. He's a big nickel fan, and he had been working very intently over at Voisey's Bay with Fiordland, looking for new nickel discoveries. And we've ended up doing a $9 million earn-in deal with Fiordland now on 2 of our projects in the northern part of the belt. And the technical team will meet with us over the next month, and we'll plan a program of work for there. It wasn't a core thing for us to do. It was a sideline while the uranium market was down, but it became extremely fascinating when you see a belt of rocks that are hugely rich in uranium, nickel mineralization, and you see the claims that were established back in the 1950s expiring, and you see this cursory amount of work that was done, but some very high-grade old drill holes. It was something we had to move forward on. So we've done one deal on 2 of the properties. We've consolidated the Manor Bridge mine. We drilled some very high-grade nickel there, 8-9% nickel, but a lot of 2-3-5% nickel. And I think that project will become interesting to somebody else. And again, all of these deals we do expose us to other companies' assets. We're now well exposed to Fiordland's nickel assets in Voisey's Bay. If we can do a deal on our Manor Bridge project next, and we are talking to several parties, then we might get exposure to something else that they're dealing with, and then we'll play catch up in the uranium space.
Okay.
Keeps our team active, keeps money in the treasury.
Well, tell me about the deal. Tell me, how is that structured? There's a $9 million program, but what does it mean for you financially? Do you get cash in? I mean, how did you construct that deal?
Most of the deals are people pay you some cash, they give you some shares, and then they spend work on the ground. Over the next 6 years, they're committed there to put in that $9 million, or else they don't earn their 80% interest. If they don't pay us the $100,000 that they said they're going to give us, they don't earn any interest. But they've put enough money up. They've actually put $25,000 up, and we use that money to stake some uranium claims in the Athabasca. But they put that money up. And now we get to use our team this year and next year through stages 1 and 2. We will use our team to carry out their work. And of course, with that as operator, you take an operator's fee of 10% on the programs that are carried out. So of that $9 million, we'll get the first 2 years as fees. We'll get the expenses paid for our exploration crews. We'll keep our team active. And we'll probably see other opportunities with this group as we go forward. So it's a matter of keeping active. We'll end up with 20% of whatever they discover, which we'll be able to sell at any time too.
But you're carried on all of this as well, are you, on your 20%?
Carried through to $9 million worth of work, and then up to $9 million, we expected that we'll have either a significant discovery or they'll have walked. With a significant discovery, that discovery has some value if we want to sell our 20% interest. We get a bonus of 10 million shares of their company if this goes to feasibility, a positive feasibility. So basically, they pay for all the exploration work on targets that were generated by our team over the space of 3 or 4 years. But they're very significant targets. They didn't come into here thinking that they were small targets. They did a lot of homework on this. These are big targets. Okay.
Peter, good rundown. Good rundown. I'd like to say I think there's a few things you need to wait around for with regards to the uranium market. Nickel potentially could be quite exciting if they put the money in the ground. Got 6 years to do it though. Could they do that quicker?
Yes, they can. They can do it at any speed they want. The first targets are very large. They're near surface. They have all the response characteristics of the nearby mines. The Thompson, the series of mines around Thompson. It would not take a lot of drilling to drill into those first targets, and if that happens, then I expect to see the money flow very quickly. We are talking with a group that are very good technically. They're good corporate people, and they're certainly well backed on the financial end. So that's something that will come out in the wash for our shareholders. But in the meantime, I think the 3-month catch-up now is everybody comes out of the COVID isolation. We'll start to see people wanting to put money into other businesses. I think the resource industry will do very well. I think there'll be more people in anticipation of a uranium mine rise buying into uranium companies. And I just want to point out we've got a $9 million company that has come down from its high of $30 or $40 million. And I think we're poised, along with the best of them, to go make a discovery.
Great way to finish. Thanks, Peter. I appreciate your time today. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on.
Excellent. Matthew, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. I like your series, so I look forward to chatting with you again.